Hey guys, welcome to a reading update. I've been reading quite a bit in the last few weeks, so I want to share some books I finished, what I'm currently reading, but first I want to get into a few changes for this next year. I do plan on making a few different changes to this channel, how I'm doing things. I think the biggest, I don't know what's the biggest, one of the things is going to be I want to go back to posting Mondays and Thursdays. I feel like that can get tricky for me because sometimes that means I'm working on Monday's video on the weekend, which I don't prefer to do, but I think I just need to get better with my organizing. I like having a Monday video. So I'm going to be doing Mondays and Thursdays, and then if I ever have an extra video, then that will go on Saturdays. I feel like that just works better with a life schedule. Also, I'm going to be diversifying my videos a little bit this year. It's one of my goals for 2023 was to have some more creative videos, and they're all kind of like bookish themed, but just different than what I've done in the past. So I'm excited about it, a little nervous about it, but I think it will be good. And then one of those changes is going to be, I think my vlogs are going to be a little bit more personal than some of my past ones. Instead of just checking in with my reading all the time, you get a little bit more of a glimpse of what's going on in my life, maybe, depending if anything's going on in my life. It's not the most interesting. Yeah, so there's gonna be some changes that way. I'm also not going to be using the Hey Reader website as a blog anymore. I've just made the decision that I have too many blogs, too many spaces that I'm involved in online. This year I'm trying to simplify the spaces where I am. So I will be doing all my blogging on one blog, which is chantelclawson.me, and I'm not going to be posting every video I post here, but different book lists, the Hey Reader challenge I'll have there. I'm going back to some old school blogging techniques, just old school blogging for 2023, so if you want to see more of that stuff, that's the place to go. It'll be interesting, I think. Just trying to simplify life a little bit. And then another change that I don't know if it's happening or not is I'm still considering creating some more Patreon tiers. I did mention I was thinking about like a postcard tier and a tier for those interested in starting a booktube channel. I'm gonna think about this for the rest of January, and then if I'm going to do it, I'm going to start it in February. So announcement may be coming soon if there is something to announce. I'm in the process right now of creating my goals for 2023. Such a fun stage of the year. I love it. One of them is to write 200 poems. Is that possible? I don't know. Just making a goal. We'll see how close or maybe how far I can get. That was hard to say this online. I would like to self-publish a poetry book by the end of the year. Maybe. I would like to try. So I have a bunch of poems I've written already. I generally don't share them though, so the idea of sharing them is a little bit difficult. But that is one of my goals, and so I might be doing some videos related to that. Maybe a little like writing update or like a writing vlog thing. I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then one of my big things that's going to change for this next season, I don't know if it will be the entire year, but I've decided once again, this is not my first time, but this is my second time, to break up with the library. I have a lot of books. I own a lot of books. And so I've decided for the most part, I do not want to be getting books from the library this year, with a few exceptions that I want to lay out because I like things to be clear. Book clubs. If I need a book for a book club, I will request that from the library. Poetry books, because I'm trying to read poetry books and I don't want to buy all of them because so many of them are terrible. Picture books and stuff, kids books, I'm going to still be doing stuff for our homeschool there. And then if I'm interested, then manga as well. I'm currently not in the mood for manga, but if I am, the library is the way to go for that. So other than that, like, I don't want to be requesting regular novels for myself. I've been feeling overwhelmed with the number of books I've been getting from the library, and so I just decided to break things off, try to read my bookshelves. I'm going to be trying for my TBR cart and my mini books on my shelf. And then of course I've got a huge book haul coming next week. So there's a lot of books to choose from. So I think that's a bit of a like update, where things are going, a few goals, etc. I guess one of the changes I want to go back to doing is more frequent reading updates. Maybe every Thursday, maybe every other Thursday. It might change. I just don't like to have a stack of completed books for too long. I love seeing a nice big stack, but I forget about them, like what's happened, and sometimes a book has to go back to the library. Like I definitely have one overdue here because I wanted to talk about it. So this is just kind of what works better for me. I know it doesn't work better for like the algorithm. The wrap-ups at the end of the month get way more views than periodic updates, but that's just how things are going to be for this season. So let's get into the books that I finished in the last couple weeks. The first one is The Afterlife of Holly Chase. I'm so glad I finally read this one this year. So I did a whole reading vlog on this for my Windy Poplar tier over on Patreon. I do a complete reading vlog, kind of spoilery reading vlog for them each month. This is the book that it was for December, and I enjoyed it. It is really like a modern Christmas Carol story. Our character Holly Chase gets visited by the ghosts at the beginning of the book, and she decides to not change her life and dies and then becomes one of the ghosts, and we can see her throughout the course of 1 year as they're trying to work on one person to get him to change his life. And I really liked the ending. Yes, very impressed by this book. I now see why so many people enjoy it. The next one I picked up was The Gilded Girl. This is a fantasy retake on A Little Princess. Oh, just totally forgot what it's called. So the home that our Sarah, whose name is Emma, goes to Miss Posterity's Academy for Practical Magic at the age of 12. It says it in here. The kindling winds blow in December. Every 12-year-old's magic either snuffs or kindles. And so the rich people often get a chance to kindle their magic, and then the poor people, their magic snuffs out. And our main character, Emma, is from a rich family, and then she eventually becomes friends with Izzy, who is a servant girl. It's very much A Little Princess. I quite enjoyed it. I'm excited to read the second book, or another book in the series. It's The Tarnished Garden, which is a secret garden, like fantastical retelling, I think. So curious about it. Really enjoyed this one as well. Then I read The Imaginarium. So this is book 1 in the Underground series by Samara Reisner. This one was sent to me by the author, and there's so much I enjoyed about it, but some things just really fell short. So in this one, our main characters are Paul and Jane. They live in this small town. Their only daughter is in kindergarten, and she goes to school one morning, and they find out a few hours later that her kindergarten class has all been shot. Except that they weren't shot. They were actually taken to the Imaginarium, which is like this underground lab. And I liked the concept. I felt like the execution was a little bit lacking. So this book follows the main character, Laylee, till she's like in her 30s, I think. So we're spanning a long time. Oh man, it's interesting. Paul and Jane, watching them with their faith as they struggle with this idea of their daughter dying, and their marriage could have really hit the rocks. They could have divorced. They clung to their faith and to each other, and I did like that. There were like some physical elements of their relationship that I felt like were written a little too much in here. That was a little strange for a Christian fiction book. And then there were some things with the Imaginarium that were, there were some dark things in a good way, and some things that were like, I don't know, I felt like maybe a little much. And it just wasn't very believable. This would have to be a very, very huge cover-up by a lot of people, and I couldn't quite believe it. Interesting storyline. It's just some things just made it not really work for me, but I liked the idea of it. Then I read Skipping Christmas. I shared this one on Instagram. It's Christmas with the Cranks is the movie based off of this book. So it's a couple whose daughter is gone for Christmas, so they are normally like over the top Christmas people. They decide to go on a cruise. Then she calls them and says actually she's coming home for Christmas and she's bringing her fiance with her, and they have to like pretend they were gonna do Christmas. I feel like maybe a few years ago when this book was written, it would have been more applicable. I feel like now so many people don't celebrate Christmas. Like the people in here are so shocked that they're not celebrating Christmas, they're not having their party, they're not sending out Christmas cards, all this stuff, and I feel like no one would really care these days. So it was okay. It was like kind of funny, but I feel like the movie was actually better. I would say skip the book, watch the movie. I never say that. Then this was my Patreon pick for the month, because I always pick one of the books that they recommend to me out of a jar. It's Letters from the Lighthouse, and I can't believe I'd never heard of this book before. So this is a World War II middle grade fiction. We follow Olive and her brother, whose name I don't remember. They are evacuated to the countryside. Her sister, older sister Suki, went missing just before they were evacuated, and she thinks that her sister Suki is sending messages and trying to help people escape from Europe. And yeah, I don't know, it feels like it gave me vibes of A Place to Hang the Moon and oh, that popular one that I'm totally blanking on, The War That Saved My Life. It's like a really sweet, wholesome middle grade historical fiction book. I really enjoyed it. The last Christmas book I read, there was an ebook in there as well. I read The Nutcracker's Suite. I thought this would be a Christmas book. It's set around Christmas time, but it's not really a Christmas, there's not a whole lot of Christmas vibes. But we're in 1920s and we've got like a mobster setting, which was really fun. Our main character works in a toy factory, and I shared a lot about this in my last vlog that I did last week, right before Christmas. She paints dolls' faces, which was just really interesting. And she has to work late one night and finds her boss's body. He's been murdered and the mob is involved, and she's worried she's going to get blamed for it or someone will come after her. So she's kind of hiding and things come out, and I really enjoyed it. It just wasn't as Christmassy as I was expecting, but it was kind of a good thing because I've been reading quite a few Christmas books, so really enjoyed that one. Then I read An Ivy Hill Christmas. So this one had a lot of Christmas vibes. This is a Regency Christmas story. I think Julie Clausen has multiple books in this Tales from Ivy Hill. That light is starting to shine in my eyes. Just rotate a little bit. Yeah, so this was kind of like a Christmas Carol kind of idea as well. Our main character has a bit of a heart change throughout the book. But what I really enjoyed about this was reading about the Regency era Christmas traditions and stuff, the 12 days of Christmas and all these other traditions that they followed that we don't follow now. I actually wish I would have read it like a few weeks before Christmas, because I kind of would like to take a few of these things and implement them in my own Christmas traditions, our own family Christmas traditions. So I'm gonna think about that for next year. And then my goal for the last half of the month, although it was more like the 20th and on, was to reread books. So I did reread If I Run. I was wondering about reading the whole series, but I think I'm gonna leave it at this. I still love this book. So we follow Casey Cox, who right at the beginning of the book comes across her best friend. He's been murdered and she knows she's gonna be blamed for it. Her father was, they say, committed suicide, but she's sure he was murdered years ago, and she thinks that there's some dirty cops involved, and she goes on the run, and I love following her and like the different things she does to hide. I love seeing her thought process. Really, really enjoyed this book. Glad I reread it, but I just realizing I'm not a huge rereader. Okay, and then I'll just show you all the books I'm currently reading. This one is a reread as well. I am rereading Emma. I find classics different to reread because so often you notice all the things that, or maybe not all, you notice things you missed the first read through, and I'm enjoying it. So I'm on chapter 11. I am supposed to be sharing thoughts about this as I go over on Patreon. I haven't yet. I will do that today, right after I'm done filming this. Yeah, but I'm enjoying it. Not much to say yet, because not very far. I also started reading the Practice of Poetry. This just has different poetry, what's the word I'm looking for? Exercises. So I'm reading that. I started rereading Vienna Prelude, and I'm currently on page 59. Yeah, struggling with the rereading thing. I'm enjoying the book. I just not sure I really like to reread books very much. I got this one for Christmas, the first Ellen Montgomery journals. I'm quite obsessed. You will be hearing more from me about this. She starts writing this when she's 14 years old, or like 2 months before she turns 15. And she copies in her first love letter. And let me say, 15-year-old boys back then wrote a lot better than 15-year-old boys right now. Yes. Oh, I'm just loving this. The way she describes people, places, things, events. I'm on page 22 and I'm obsessed. Then I am supposed to be rereading books, but I started another one, a new one. This is Worst Case Colin. This is a middle grade free verse novel. My daughter is making me read it, so that's my reasoning for why I'm not rereading right now and I'm starting a new book. I'm only on page 36. His mom died a while ago and he's scared of a lot of things. That's really all I know so far. But I'm in the middle of a bunch of books, finished a bunch of books, excited for 2023, yes, and all the changes, hopefully good changes that will be coming. Let me know something that you've read recently and any goals or changes that you hope to occur in 2023. Thank you so much for being with me this last year, you guys.